I still remember the day my doctor looked me straight in the eye and said, "If you don't change your eating habits, we'll have to start you on insulin." That was a cold February morning in Tennessee, and I swear the chill in the air wasn't half as sharp as the chill I felt in my bones. You see, I grew up thinking greens were just something you push to the side of the plate to get to the mashed potatoes. But at 68, I found myself turning to God for guidance, and wouldn't you know it, the answer was growing right there at His green earth. The amazing part? These aren't exotic or expensive superfoods from far away. They're simple greens you can find at the corner grocery store, the same ones folks have been eating for generations. And yet, they carry compounds that help keep blood sugar steady, reduce inflammation, and give you the kind of steady energy that doesn't crash by lunchtime. Some of them even help your eyesight, which is a blessing after 60. Over time, these humble leaves have done more for me than any miracle product on TV ever could. Most people think the road to staying off insulin is paved with restrictions, bland food, and saying goodbye to everything you enjoy. But I'm here to tell you, and I thank the Lord that it can actually be full of flavor, color, and joy. My kitchen became a little laboratory of God's bounty, filled with leafy greens that not only helped me keep my blood sugar in check, but made me look forward to every meal. I'll share with you the exact 7 greens I eat daily, each one with its own story, its own taste, and its own way of helping this oil body of mine. You don't have to be a chef, and you certainly don't have to spend a fortune. You just need to know which ones to choose and how to enjoy them. So, grab yourself a seat, maybe a warm cup of tea, and let me walk you through these miracle greens that have kept me off insulin at 68. If you enjoy learning about simple ways to stay healthy after 60, go ahead and share this video with a friend who might need some encouragement. Number 7, arugula. The first time I tasted arugula, I had no idea what it was called. It showed up in a little sandwich I ordered at a roadside cafe in North Carolina, tucked between slices of turkey and tomato. I remember taking that first bite and thinking, now this lettuce has got some spunk. Instead of the bland crunch I was used to, there was this peppery zing, like it was waking up my whole mouth. Back then, I didn't think much of it, just a fancy green from some chef's garden. But years later, when my doctor warned me about insulin, that flavor came back to mind. It was bold without being bitter, strong without needing a dressing full of sugar. These days, I keep a fresh bag in my fridge nearly all year because it turns the simplest plate, a cup of fried eggs, a bit of grilled chicken, into something that feels like Sunday dinner. And when you're trying to protect your blood sugar, finding joy in your food is just as important as finding nutrients in it. What makes arugula so special isn't just its taste, though that's reason enough for me to eat it daily, but the way God tucked His goodness into every leaf. It's rich in natural nitrates that help improve blood flow, so your heart doesn't have to work quite as hard, your brain gets more oxygen, and even those stiff morning walks around the neighborhood start to feel smoother. I've noticed my legs don't cramp the way they used to, and I can walk a little longer before needing a rest. For folks like us, over 60, that's not just a nice bonus. It's a ticket to more independence. And because arugula is naturally low in carbs, it doesn't mess with my blood sugar no matter how much I pile on my plate. I've learned that it's one of those rare foods that offers both flavor and peace of mind in the same bite. Now, I used to think salads needed a thick blanket of creamy dressing just to be edible. I'd pour it on until the greens were swimming, never thinking about the sugar hidden inside. Arugula cured me of that habit. Its peppery bite means I can just drizzle on some olive oil, maybe squeeze a fresh lemon over the top, and it's ready. No fuss, no tricks, no sugar bombs. Sometimes I'll toss in slices of avocado and a sprinkle of walnuts, and suddenly I've got a meal that feels both hearty and refreshing. It's the kind of plate that fills you up without making you sleepy afterward, a rare thing once you've hit your 60s. I think part of the reason I've stuck with arugula is because it's easy. It doesn't need cooking, chopping, or a long list of ingredients to make it shine. When I get back from church on Sundays and want something light before my afternoon nap, a bowl of fresh arugula with a little protein on the side is all it takes. That's the beauty of it. You can make it fancy for guests or keep it plain for yourself, and it still feels like you're doing your body a favor. Over time, I've realized that food doesn't have to be complicated to be powerful. If you told me 20 years ago that a peppery little leaf could help my circulation, protect my heart, and make my meals more satisfying. I'd have laughed it off. But now, every forkful feels like a quiet reminder that God's been looking out for me all along. Sometimes, the blessings aren't wrapped in big miracles. They're tucked right into the small, green things we choose to put on our plates. Number 6, romaine lettuce. When most folks think of lettuce, they picture a pale, watery leaf, something you pile under a burger or push to the side of your plate. I used to think the same, until I gave romaine lettuce a proper chance. The first time I really noticed it was at a church potluck in Kentucky, where Miss Linda brought a big wooden bowl of salad that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Tall, crisp leaves stood up like green boats, and when I bit into one, there was this perfect snap, like breaking a fresh green bean in the garden. It wasn't just filler. It was refreshing, almost sweet, and sturdy enough to hold all the other good things without turning soggy. That day, I went home thinking maybe lettuce wasn't as boring as I believed all my life. Over time, I learned that romaine has its own quiet strength, hiding minerals like chromium that can help keep blood sugar steady. Something I needed more than I cared to admit at the time. Romaine isn't showy like kale or spicy like arugula, but that's part of its charm. It slips right into your meals without demanding attention, yet works behind the scenes to give your body a gentle helping hand. For someone like me, watching my glucose levels, it's a blessing to have a green that feels light, but still supports my health. That chromium I mentioned, it helps your body use insulin better, meaning your blood sugar doesn't swing up and down like a yo-yo. I can eat a big plate of romaine without feeling sluggish afterward, and that's something I didn't realize mattered so much until I started listening to my body. It's funny how, after 60, you start to notice these small differences, the kind that add up over months and years. One of my favorite things about romaine is how easy it is to find. No fancy grocery stores, no farmer's market required. Just walk into any supermarket in America, and there it is, waiting in the produce aisle. And it's affordable, too, which matters when you're trying to eat well without spending half your retirement check on groceries. I like to buy the whole heads instead of the pre-cut bags. They last longer in the fridge and keep that crisp texture that makes every bite satisfying. When I wash and tear the leaves by hand, the fresh, grassy smell reminds me of summers on my uncle's farm, when we pull vegetables straight from the ground and eat them before the dirt had even dried. Romaine has also become my secret weapon for cutting down on bread without feeling deprived. Instead of a sandwich, I'll wrap my turkey in cheese and big romaine leaves, roll them up, and take a bite that's just as crunchy and filling as a real thing, without the car crash afterward. I've even brought these lettuce wraps to family picnics, and folks will ask for the recipe, not realizing the secret is simply swapping bread for a leaf. That's the kind of swap that feels too easy to be important, but it's little choices like this that keep me in control of my blood sugar. Sometimes I think about how close I came to ignoring romaine completely, dismissing it as plain old lettuce. But every time I take a crisp, cool bite, I'm reminded that health doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. It can be as simple as making friends with a vegetable you've overlooked. In my book, romaine earns its place on the plate not just for what it does for my body, but for how it's taught me to appreciate the small, steady things that keep me well. And for that, I thank the Lord every single day. Number 5, mustard greens. The first time mustard greens ever made their way onto my plate, I was just a boy at my grandma's kitchen table in rural Georgia. She'd have a big pot simmering on the stove, the steam filling the whole room with that sharp, earthy smell you can't quite forget. She'd spoon a heap onto my plate, sprinkle a little vinegar over the top, and tell me, "Eat your greens, they'll put strength in your bones." Back then, I didn't care about bones or blood sugar. I just knew they had a little kick that made my tongue tingle. I later learned that same tangy bite comes from compounds called glucosinolates, which do more than just flavor greens. They help your liver work like a well-oiled machine, clearing out the stuff your body doesn't need. For someone like me, trying to stay off insulin, keeping my whole system running smooth is just as important as watching what's on my plate. Mustard greens have this quiet power that sneaks up on you. They're one of those foods that feel like a side dish, but work like a team of little repairmen inside your body. The slight heat in their flavor wakes up your digestion, helping your stomach and intestines do their job without making you feel heavy. I've noticed that when I eat them regularly, I feel lighter after meals, not sluggish or weighed down. That's a blessing when you're over 60 and your metabolism isn't as quick as it used to be. Plus, they barely nudge your blood sugar, a true low glycemic green. I think of them as the friend who shows up quietly, helps you move the heavy furniture, and leaves before you even have to say thank you. Cooking mustard greens is a tradition in itself where I come from. Some folks like to boil them long and slow with a bit of smoked turkey or ham hock for flavor, while others prefer a quick saute in olive oil and garlic to keep more of their bite. I enjoy both depending on the day. On Sundays, I'll make a big pot the old-fashioned way and let it sit on the stove while the house fills with that familiar scent. During the week, I might toss them in a hot skillet for just a couple minutes. Quick, easy, and just enough heat to soften them without losing their character. Either way, they're proof that eating for your health doesn't mean giving up comfort food. What I love most is how mustard greens carry a taste of history with every bite. They've been on Southern tables for generations, long before we started talking about antioxidants and detoxification. Our grandparents may not have known the science, but they knew the feeling that these greens did you good. There's something grounding about knowing I'm eating the same food that fuel folks who work from sunup to sundown in the fields, who live strong into old age without half the medicines we rely on today. It's a reminder that sometimes the wisdom we need has been right here all along. I often think about my grandma when I make mustard greens, and I can almost hear her voice telling me to take just one more helping. Back then, I rolled my eyes. Now, I understand she was giving me more than just food. She was giving me a little shield for the years ahead. Every forkful feels like a thank you prayer, both to her and to the Lord, for keeping such gifts growing in the soil. Number 4, Swiss chard. The first time I saw Swiss chard, I didn't even know it was edible. It was at a farmer's market in South Carolina. A bunch of long green leaves with bright red and yellow stems piled high on a wooden table. I thought it was just for decoration. Too pretty to be food. The vendor handed me a leaf and said, "Taste it. You'll be surprised." He was right. It had a mild, earthy flavor that wasn't bitter like some greens, and those colorful stalks had a gentle crunch that made me smile. Later, I learned it wasn't just a pretty face. God packed Swiss chard with special antioxidants called betalains, which work like tiny shields inside your body, fighting off a kind of slow-burning inflammation that sneaks up on people with blood sugar troubles. I may not understand all the science, but I can feel the difference in my joints and energy when I eat it regularly. Swiss chard has a way of making a plate feel alive. Those rainbow-colored stems bring a little joy to the table, and I think that matters more than most folks realize. Food that looks inviting makes you want to eat it, and when that food also helps you keep your blood sugar steady, it's a win all around. There's also something in chard called syringic acid, a mouthful to say, but a quiet helper when it comes to controlling post-meal sugar spikes. I've noticed that if I have chard with a heavier meal, I don't feel that sleepy crash afterward. Instead, I get to enjoy the rest of my day without fighting to keep my eyes open. It's like having a little insurance policy built right into your dinner. One of my favorite ways to cook Swiss chard is to saute it gently with olive oil and garlic, letting the stem soften just enough while the leaves wilt. Sometimes I'll add a splash of apple cider vinegar at the end for brightness. Other times, I chop the stems into soups or stews, letting them add color and a bit of crunch. On warm days, I'll even slice the leaves thin and toss them raw into a salad with lemon juice and walnuts. No matter how I make it, Swiss chard always feels like a special treat, even though it is humble and affordable as any green you'll find at the store. Swiss chard isn't as famous as spinach or kale, but I think that's part of its charm. It's like the quiet cousin at the family reunion, the one who doesn't brag but always shows up to help clean up after dinner. I've noticed that once friends try it, they end up keeping it in their kitchens, too. There's something satisfying about introducing someone to a food that makes them feel good, especially when it's been right there under their noses the whole time. Every time I cook Swiss chard, I'm reminded that health isn't just about avoiding the bad. It's about welcoming the good. These colorful leaves feel like a reminder from the Lord that beauty and nourishment can live side by side. When I take a bite, I'm not just eating to stay off insulin. I'm feeding my body something that lifts my spirit, too. And that's worth more than any pill in the cabinet. Number 3, collard greens. If there's one green that feels like home to me, it's collard greens. I can still see my mom in our old kitchen in Alabama, a big pot on the back burner, the scent of collards and smoked ham hock weaving through the air like a warm blanket. She let them simmer for hours, the leaves turning tender while the broth, or pot liquor, as we called it, grew rich and savory. As a boy, I didn't know those greens were doing anything more than filling my belly. But now, I understand they were feeding me fiber that kept me full, calcium that kept my bones strong, and memories that kept me connected to my roots. In a world where so much changes too fast, there's comfort in knowing that some things, like a pot of collards on a Sunday, are timeless. Collard greens are a workhorse for folks like us watching our blood sugar. The insoluble fiber they carry slows down digestion just enough to keep glucose from jumping too high after a meal. That steady release of energy means I don't get those dizzy spells or crashes that used to sneak up on me in the afternoons. And because they're hearty, they can take the place of heavier sides like mashed potatoes or macaroni, giving you comfort food satisfaction without the carb load. It's no wonder our grandparents kept them on the table. They didn't have the science words for it, but they sure knew how to eat for lasting strength. There's a rhythm to cooking collard greens that feels almost like prayer. Washing the leaves, stacking them, rolling them into tight bundles before slicing them into ribbons. It's a slow, mindful process that forces you to slow down. 2. I like to cook them with a little smoked turkey these days, keeping the flavor without all the extra fat from pork. Sometimes I'll spice the pot with a pinch of red pepper flakes, just enough to give it a little kick. And when the collards are ready, I ladle some of that pot liquor into a mug and sip it like tea. Old folks used to say that's where the real strength was hiding, and I believe them. Collard greens also carry a story about resilience. These plants can handle heat, cold, and even a little neglect, yet they grow strong and sturdy, just like the people who've been tending them for generations. Every bite feels like a link to those who came before us. Folks who worked the land, trusted the seasons, and found ways to thrive with what they had. I think there's a lesson in that for all of us, especially when it comes to our health. Sometimes it's not about having everything perfect, but about making the most of what's right in front of you. When I sit down to a plate of collard greens, I'm not just eating vegetables. I'm tasting family history, hard work, and God's provision. They remind me that taking care of myself doesn't have to mean giving up the flavors I love. Instead, it's about embracing them in ways that keep me strong for the years ahead. And that's why collards will always have a place at my table. Number 2, spinach. Spinach has been on my plate in one way or another for as long as I can remember, though I'll admit I didn't always appreciate it. When I was a kid, my mama used to spoon out big helpings from a can, and I'd push it around the plate, wondering how Popeye could stand the stuff. It wasn't until much later, when I learned to cook it fresh, that I realized spinach could be tender, sweet, and full of life. The first time I tossed fresh spinach leaves into a hot skillet with a bit of garlic and olive oil, I knew I'd found something I could eat every day. And now I do. Because it's not just delicious, it's one of the richest natural sources of magnesium you can put on your fork, and that mineral plays a big role in helping your body keep blood sugar in check. One thing I love about spinach is how easy it is on the body. The leaves are soft enough for anyone to chew, even if you've got teeth that have seen better days. It digests like a dream. There's no heavy, bloated feeling afterward, just steady energy and a lightness that carries me through the day. Spinach also has a quiet hero inside it, alpha-lipoic acid, a compound that helps reduce insulin resistance. That means my cells are better at using the sugar already in my blood, instead of letting it pile up and cause trouble. For me, that's not just science. It's something I can feel in the way my energy stays level from breakfast to supper. Cooking with spinach is one of the easiest habits I've built into my life. I keep fresh bags in the fridge and frozen blocks in the freezer, so it's always within reach. On busy mornings, I'll toss a handful into scrambled eggs or blend it into a smoothie with some almond milk and berries. At lunch, it becomes a bed for a salad, or I'll stir into soups and stews at the last minute, so it stays bright green. And when I really want to treat myself, I'll saute it with a little butter and nutmeg, just like my grandma used to do. No matter how I prepare it, I know I'm giving my body a gift. Spinach has also become my travel companion. Whenever I'm visiting family, I'll stop at a local store and pick up a bag because it fits into any meal without fuss. I've even been known to sneak it into my grandkids' macaroni and cheese. They eat it without complaint, and I get the satisfaction of knowing they're getting some greens without realizing it. It's the kind of food that plays well with others, blending into your diet so naturally that you hardly notice how much you're eating until it's become a daily habit. These days, I don't eat spinach just because it's good for me. I eat it because I genuinely enjoy it. Somewhere along the way, it stopped being a chore and became something I look forward to. Every forkful feels like a small step toward keeping my independence, my energy, and my place in the lives of people I love. And I thank the Lord for that, because it's proof that healthy changes don't have to be hard. Sometimes they just have to taste good. Number 1, kale. I'll be honest with you. Kale and I didn't start off as friends. The first time I tried it, someone handed me a raw kale salad at a community picnic, and I thought I'd bitten into a mouthful of lawn clippings. But I kept hearing about its superfood powers, and when I dug a little deeper, I learned something that made me give it a second chance. Kale is one of the highest nutrient densities of any food on the planet. That means you get a mountain of vitamins, minerals, and plant compounds for hardly any calories. And for someone watching blood sugar like I am, that's a deal worth shaking hands over. I started cooking it instead of eating it raw. And that's when the magic happened. Tender, flavorful, and surprisingly satisfying. Kale's secret weapon is a compound called sulforaphane, which helps your body become more sensitive to insulin. I may not know all the fancy chemistry, but I do know that when your body uses insulin better, your blood sugar doesn't swing up and down like a roller coaster. Over time, I noticed I wasn't feeling those post-meal crashes that used to send me hunting for a nap. On top of that, kale's packed with lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 nutrients that help keep your eyes sharp. And Lord knows that's something you appreciate more with every candle you add to your birthday cake. For me, kale has been like a quiet partner in my health journey, working behind the scenes to keep me steady. I like to prepare kale in a few different ways, depending on my mood. Sometimes I'll chop it and toss it into a hearty soup, letting it soften and soak up the broth. Other times, I saute it with onions and a splash of apple cider vinegar, just enough to bring out its depth without losing its bite. When I want a snack, I'll make kale chips in the oven, a little olive oil, a sprinkle of sea salt, and they come out crisp and light. The beauty of kale is that it can be dressed up for a holiday meal or kept simple for a Tuesday night supper, and it's always doing good work for your body either way. One of the things I've learned about kale is that it's been part of traditional diets for centuries, long before it became trendy. Farmers knew it was a hardy crop that could survive cold weather and still provide fresh greens in the dead of winter. That resilience speaks to me, the idea that something can withstand hardship and still offer nourishment. I guess that's part of why I've come to respect it so much. When you've been through a few storms in life yourself, you appreciate the strength in something that just keeps growing. Every time I put kale on my plate, I'm reminded that my health is built one choice at a time. It's not about a single meal or a single day. It's about showing up for yourself over and over again, even in small ways. And for me, kale has become a symbol of that commitment. I thank the Lord for guiding me toward it, because it's more than just food. It's a daily reminder that I can still get stronger, even at 68. Looking back, I realized this journey wasn't just about staying off insulin. It was about taking back a piece of my life I thought I had lost. When my doctor first gave me that warning, I felt like the road ahead was going to be nothing but restrictions, bland meals, and constant worry. But the Lord works in surprising ways. He led me to simple greens, foods I'd walked past 1,000 times without a second thought, and they became a foundation for a healthier, happier me. I didn't have to travel to some far-off country or spend a fortune on powders and pills. Everything I needed was right here in my own kitchen, waiting for me to notice. What I've learned is that health after 60 doesn't have to be about chasing youth. It's about protecting the life you have now, so you can keep living it on your terms. Each of these greens, from a peppery kick of arugula to the deep comfort of collard greens, has its own way of helping me keep my blood sugar steady and my energy strong. They aren't magic cures, but they are faithful companions in this season of life. And when you combine them with a bit of movement, a grateful heart, and the wisdom to listen to your body, They can make a world of difference. I've also come to see that eating well can be an act of gratitude. Every time I prepare these greens, I think about the hands that planted them, the soil that nourished them, and the God who made them grow. That changes the way you see your plate. It's no longer just about what's on it. It's about the life it supports. And that mindset has carried me through days when it would have been easier to give in to old habits. Gratitude has a way of making good choices feel less like rules and more like blessings. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone listening, it's this. It's never too late to make small changes that add up to big results. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. Start by adding one of these greens to your meals a few times a week. See how you feel. Pay attention to the little shifts. Maybe you sleep better. Maybe your afternoon energy lasts longer. Maybe your blood sugar readings start to even out. Those little wins will give you the motivation to keep going. And one day, you'll look back and realize just how far you've come. I'm no doctor, and I can't tell you what will work for you personally. That's a conversation you need to have with your own healthcare provider before making big changes. But I can tell you this from the heart. These greens have been a blessing in my life. They've given me strength, steadiness, and a deeper appreciation for the everyday gifts we sometimes overlook. So take care of yourselves, keep faith in the small steps, and God bless y'all.